All right, I think we're live here. See if we can get more than 9 viewers this time. I don't even know what the I don't know if any of those metrics, how like good they are, like the LinkedIn ones or the YouTube ones, or these that come through Restream, but whatever. It's only our second one, so we're building on it. So thank you for joining. If you're here, if you're not, and you're watching this, thank you for watching it after the fact. It's DenSecure Cast, something we started doing a few weeks ago. We're going to try to keep a bi-weekly cadence, essentially. Just us ranting, talking, arguing, whatever it may be about the topic of the day. Sometimes it'll be technical, sometimes it won't. Today, I was planning on maybe showing off a tool that somebody came up with for password spraying. I may or may not still do that, depending, because I've been messing with it and possibly broke it. So all that aside, what we want to talk about today primarily is what a penetration test is and is not. And it is somehow 2026. And I would say the vast majority of this industry has done a really, really bad job of making that clear to clients over time. To their clients over time. When I say the vast majority, I'm not talking about like the top tier firms and the people who really get it. I'm talking about the people that sell the proverbial vulnerability scan as a penetration test, because there's way more of those than there are firms that do a good job and actually perform a penetration test. And therefore, I think you end up with massive amounts of clients and companies or whatever that are used to that version of a penetration test. And therefore, when an actual firm comes along and gives them one, all kinds of interesting things happen. And we'll get into that. But I mean, given that there is, I think in my opinion at least, a misunderstanding about what it actually is and is not. I mean, how do you think we define it, Alex, here?
A penetration test. How do we define it here? I view penetration testing, at least for my clients, as a QA attack path validation exercise. It's most akin to like a QA assessment, because we're not going to find necessarily every single issue, but we're going to go through an exercise to try to demonstrate impact and chaining different techniques together. That's going to be the lowest hanging fruit, or things that we can quickly take advantage of. So I think penetration testing is very similar to QA-based testing, and then you apply those principles or methodologies based on the scope, whether it be internal, external. It's easy to get really stuck into like rote checklists, I think, for a lot of places I see, where you're kind of going down a list of, you check for ADCS issues, you check for group policy issues, and then you kind of call it a day. But I think the industry is shifting pretty quickly just based on like the buzzwords of AI and things. I think it's going to change from the old days of like method scanning, looking for CVEs and hunting for exploits. I think that's going to now get replaced by like the automation with like AD-based assessments, things like that. So yeah, it's a quick high level, but I don't know. What would you say?
Well, I mean, I guess maybe a better way to frame it is like versus any vulnerability scan.
Sure. Yeah, we can start there first.
I mean, when people are getting sold pen tests, it's like, a lot of the times it turns out, if we end up seeing the results of that in a following year or whatever, or like we're talking to clients about it, what happened last year, what are you interested in this year, yada, 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 right? You'll hear not buzzwords, but you'll hear phrases like, well, last year in our pen tests, like what we don't want to happen this year is get like this long spreadsheet of like issues, right? Like that comes in an Excel file that's like 40,000 lines long. And then my spidey sense starts tingling like, that sounds like Nessus output to me. That doesn't sound like a penetration test. Maybe they gussy it up and make it look a little more fancy in like a PDF with like their logo on it or branding or something like that. But when I hear things like that, when I hear things like, oh, we had like no findings last year, or no, we patched all our we patched all the issues, right? Like, when we do you do remediation scans? as opposed to remediation testing. I mean, what else do you hear where you're like, oh God, they were not going to test last time?
Can we schedule scans off hours because of the bandwidth and things?
Yeah, all the time.
It's just like a lot of assumptions that we do a lot of scanning for whatever reason. And I guess tools, depending on how you define scanning, I guess it's valid, but that's a key indicator that they're used to someone doing mass scan internally for whatever reason and just trying to DOS them, or doing a huge Nessus or Rapid7 scan.
Hey, you can.
But I think part of the issue is not
you can run mass scan at a reasonable speed. All right.
You can, yeah, you could run it safely. But I think part of the issue is that there hasn't been a lot of innovation in the vulnerability scanning, I guess, space. Like that entire area has just generated so much noise, where in the past it was probably very useful, where you would be doing that alongside your penetration test. Like 10 or so years ago, you'd be doing a vulnerability assessment, look for exploitable vulnerabilities, grab the POC from exploit DB, run your Metasploit, whatever you're doing, get a shell, right? So that's traditionally how penetration testing started to some extent, and with vulnerability assessments. But now it's changed a lot, and unfortunately, vulnerability scanning hasn't changed whatsoever. So you just get a ton of noise from that scanner that, to me, is a lot of junk, and there's not a really good way to prioritize or balance the noise that oftentimes causes a lot of spend and just cycles for IT teams and security teams to believe that's what essentially they should be prioritizing for fixing. Whereas when we come in, or a legitimate company that knows what they're doing, I don't remember the last time I've directly found something from Nessus that was, to me, right, I could use on an assessment. Usually it's misconfigurations because they're already running those tools in the background. But I think it's just a lack of innovation in that space, to be honest.
Or if there is something in there, it's multiple things that are like lows that you have to chain together to do something with. It's not like, oh, MSO 8067 is here. Go hit a button in Metasploit and get a shell.
Or you have to pay for the other module to get AD-based
or that
vulnerabilities integrated, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. I mean, I also think that like how do I put this? Like there's no, if clients are still not understanding what this is supposed to look like and what they're supposed to expect from a pen test, right? Then there is no incentive for bad vendors to stop selling them what they're selling them right now because they're getting paid, right? So it's like, if you can get away with performing a Nessus scan and then having someone take a quick peek at anything that pops up as like high or critical, and then if there isn't any of that, or inevitably they can't do anything with it, and then the only finding in the report is like TLS v1 on like internal web servers in the report, right? Like people think that they're doing all right because they don't get it, and B, they've definitely hit their compliance checkbox, right? And C, I mean, they're throwing money down the drain, right?
Well,
like
they're
doing internal. If they're already doing internal vuln scans, they're more or less doing exactly what that quote unquote pen tester is doing, minus maybe like popping open Metasploit and seeing if there's anything in there that matches Nessus for like a known exploit.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even money though. It's also a disservice to the client's time and priority, right? If they take that seriously, of like, oh, we have a high risk of SSL internal certificates that are not signed by a certificate authority, or they're weak ciphers and stuff internally of the internal network of like a printer or something, and they actually spend time trying to fix that versus meanwhile they have a huge slew of AD issues that can be easily chained together to get to administrative levels. I mean, that is definitely part of the problem, where that's the kind of the noise, and they don't know. I mean, the client's not going to know. They're not going to be an expert of that domain. If you tell them that this is a priority, then they're going to review that. Regulators are going to look at that, and they're going to say, yep, you're right. You got to go fix that. And it's just a lot of time spent, unfortunately.
It also ends up we end up in a situation where, you know, they've had the bad pen test, quote unquote pen test, for years prior. Then they hire somebody who knows what they're doing. I will throw us into that mix, and you end up with a ton of findings that you weren't there, quote unquote, weren't there because no other penetration test found it. And then depending upon the internal culture of that organization, they're either really pissed and they're taking it out on you, and management is potentially taking it out on you if internal audit bought the test from you because you just found a litany of things that you just filled up their log with that they have to now fix.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not making friends. And you can essentially thank the people that were there prior, right, for not doing their diligence and not doing the right thing for those clients. But then again, how far down this rabbit hole you want to go? Do those companies that are doing that bad testing even realize that it's bad testing?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would love to believe that.
Is it a money grab because somebody was like, hey, we're a whatever tiny little, I don't know, whatever CPA firm or MSP or whatever the case may be. And, other people sell pen testing and it seems to make them money. So we should do it too. And they're just like, what's the minimum viable product for this that we can sell at potentially a bargain basement price and get paid? Right. And there's no incentive to then get better at it.
Maybe. I mean, I think part of it is that they may define different services or something. Like they may view a penetration test as that vulnerability assessment kind of exercise where when we look at it, we're doing 80 base assessments.
Well, that's the definition problem, though. That's exactly the definition.
It is. But I also think that's like almost a US-centric problem, to be honest. I mean, if you look at the EU and UK, they have CREST and other approved kind of frameworks that you can kind of easily look at and say, hey, you need to do a threat-informed penetration test or an assessment, essentially. And they define strictly of like what that actually means. So if you're incorporating CTI and you're doing all these different assessments, you're looking at these kind of exploits and whatever you're doing in the background. Versus here, you're either looking at it from one sentence that says you do penetration testing, and that could mean just only external. It doesn't even mean internal, right?
It's up to you to determine what that means.
Yeah, and that's, you could easily get by a checkbox kind of compliance thing if you need to.
Well, I mean, people say regulation is what drives people to care about quote unquote care about security, because of course it's a cost center. It costs a lot. It costs money to have this done. Secure things, like whatever. You're not making money off of it, but like I just lost my train of thought. It's like that regulation is so poorly worded and not specific that there's no incentive to go beyond, right? It's like if it were more like you said, like, the CREST, whatever they use, CREST or whatever they use. I'm not that familiar with overseas, but it's like there's a much better definition for what this should be, and therefore it's harder for people to skate in having, in both selling and buying, the bottom of the barrel types of assessments that aren't going to do them much good.
Yeah, I mean,
do them harm potentially.
This is not only an issue in penetration testing. I think it's just in consulting in general. You'll find that there's going to be an automated way to get past the checkbox. Like this is happening in the SOC world and industry, like SOC 1, SOC 2s, where you have these automated. I'm not going to name the names of those companies, but it's an easy way to get past those kind of exercises. Because
you mean the companies that aggregate or use AI to minimize
you get a SOC report in 5-10 minutes.
Report for 80%. Yeah. The ones that you hear about in podcasts.
Yeah, those are the ones. I think that is. I put some of the blame on regulations, though. I mean, we don't have a lot of regulators that are very technical, and they aren't the ones. Like,
they don't have Congress people that are very technical and understand.
Okay, that's fair too. Yeah, but that's part of the problem. You need to have people empower them to actually enforce the rules of making it. Hey, this is what we're going to accept.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just really bothers me that people are selling this stuff and actually getting away with it. And it's like, when that happens, like, again, like a good company comes in and they're going to catch all the flack from the garbage that was performed prior, right? It's like, oh, well, like last year our report was clean. Why isn't it this year? And it's like, well, we're not the prior testing company, so I can't really tell you that. You should ask them. or they have less of like a matured security mindset, if that's even a term, because they're not being forced to get better. They're not being forced to learn what these risks are, right, to then remediate them. So like they'll say things to us potentially like, oh, that's not realistic, right? That's not a realistic scenario. It's like, oh, well, this doesn't adequately reflect our environment. And it's like, yeah, but we did this in your environment, right? And like, it's more adversarial than it is a more mature frame of mind of like, okay, like we see what you found. We understand the risk here. We're going to work to remediate it. Or if they have pushback, it's not adversarial in nature. It's like, help me understand this better. Not, no, like this isn't really a problem. Like this wasn't found before. Now all of a sudden it was found by you guys and we don't get it. And, our EDR would have caught that. The only security control we have because our MSP
EDR,
or like, the MSSP would have stopped you. Like if they knew this was a pen test, so they didn't do anything.
Yeah,
right?
we let you in. Yeah,
whatever the excuse is, right? And it's like I don't know. You're not helping. They're not helping anybody by not doing.
Yeah, and I mean that's part of the perspective problem too. Of like that's what I meant at the beginning. Like, this is a QA exercise. If you're doing a network pen test where you're plugging in an unauthorized device to some aspect, where you're bringing in a virtual machine, you're running Kali or something like that in a client's environment, that's already not realistic to some extent already. So you kind of lose the realism and accuracy, but that's the whole point of the network penetration test, for the tester to move efficiently, identify those gaps, and give you issues to work and remediate, because those same issues can be easily translated in a more realistic setting. But that's a different service. That's not a penetration test anymore.
That's like the classic, like, we still hear of clients that are like, hey, I wanted in the report that our NAC stopped your device that you plugged into our network.
Yep.
And like when somebody asks me that, and like it's not necessarily their fault, but like when somebody asks me that or says that, I'm like, you couldn't have just given me a better picture of the security and maturity mindset of what's going on here, right? Because like there's almost no world in which local or like even like basically regional bank is going to have someone fly here from Russia,
right?
Social engineer whatever their way, enter the building, plug in a drop device that they are then going to use to connect back to Russia
with Kali Linux.
With Kali Linux, by the way, right? and then run and then pwn your environment. Like that's just that's not a thing, right? Like, yeah, sure, maybe Fortune 100 companies or corporate espionage, or not corporate, just espionage in general. Like that's like APT level stuff, right? Like they're not coming after $5 billion bank in New York or Massachusetts or wherever it is. Like it's not realistic, right? So like the fact that that people are being like, well, since the NAC stopped you, basically we're good, right?
Yeah.
We had to allow you through.
Yep.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with validating those controls, but I agree with you. It kind of tells a lot of the story of, okay, now we're conflating the two of almost like we want to assume breach and more realistic assessment, and then we also want this network pen test. So you unfortunately can't do both. You have to choose which route you want to go to. Of, is this control validation? And we can do that along the way of like, sure, we can test that really quick. I mean, you're going to plug it in the device. You could try to bypass the NAC, but is that time really well spent for the tester to try and do that? Well, there's a lot there in terms of like how we should be evaluating an environment and what actually matters. I think it's fine to validate those controls, but I agree with you. I've definitely seen that where it becomes an adversarial engagement of, we let you in, we saw you, we could have stopped you, so none of these findings actually matter. Get rid of them from the report kind of thing. Not all clients are like that, but it definitely exists still.
or they want the risk ratings for findings to go down
Reduced,
because
yep.
of that neck or whatever that initial
Yeah.
control was. Like, well, everything else is now less because of that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not. Yeah. I mean, where do we go with this from here? I mean,
so
I guess
here's a question then. I mean, how would you evaluate if you're evaluating a penetration tester or a company that you need a penetration
you
tester?
read my mind, because that's actually exactly
what are you going to recommend to clients?
I think they need to. I think it starts with like an evaluation process, and like before you hire anybody, it's like look them up. You know what I mean? Like look up the company, like look at their service descriptions, like on their website, right? Like sure, a lot of that can be marketing fluff, and it probably won't be as super duper prescriptive and clear as you would want it to be. But I feel like oftentimes it's pretty easy to see, maybe not easy, but you get a flavor of what kind of place you're going to be dealing with just looking at how they present, I guess, on their website, and the people that work there. Like, can you see who the pen testers are, right? Like, can you find them on LinkedIn? What kind of certs do they have? Not that always matters, but we talked about that kind of, I guess, in the first episode. Yeah. What is their track record? Where else have they worked before? Who is a manager on that team, right? Like what kind of bona fides do they have? I mean, how long they've been around, right? Things like that. Are they strictly a security company, right? Do they offer, that plus, a basket weaving service and like all this other crazy stuff that has nothing to do with audit of any kind? Is it just like a fly by night type of situation? Right? Things like that. Talk to your peers, right? Who have they used? Did they like them? Right? Obviously, if you're a bank, if you're a hospital, you have conferences you go to, right? And the people watching this, you probably go to some of the security conferences or the IT conferences for your industry and start chatting, right? Like, oh, hey, so-and-so sponsoring this. There's 17 security companies sponsoring this conference that we're at. Have you used any of them? Right. I talked to these guys. I talked to those guys. Right. They seem legit. Have you used them? Do you know anybody that has? Like, you have to do the diligence. Part of it is on you before you sign the check. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Like, just because, somebody gave you a hat at a booth, right. Or like, whatever, you won the bottle of whiskey, right? I mean, sure, we give bottles of whiskey away. We do the door prize, the iPads, whatever, right? But that doesn't mean that we're professionals at building F-16s or something, right? Like, we're professionals at this specific thing that's all we do day in and day out, right? So do your diligence. I mean, what do you think? Like, what else?
Well, there's one that I'm surprised you forgot to mention or just passed it. It's, do they offer you a sample report without going through
a good one.
Several calls or going through an exercise to try and get that? That sample report should be easily obtainable, at least to kind of get a sense of what you're reviewing, what the risk ratings will look like.
Have one, I would feel like that would be
or
we'll find one.
That's a red flag for sure. Yeah,
and they send you a poorly.
Yeah,
I just got lost
yeah, I lost you for a second, but I think you're back. Report definitely is number one. I mean, it's no secret that in industry, it's very common for places to rotate consultancies every 2 to 3 years. So usually those consultancies will have recommendations of their own. So if you reach out to a pen tester company that you really in the industry, and you could say, hey, we would recommend X, Y, and Z. They're similar. And it's kind of friendly competition. So word of mouth moves pretty quickly. Blogs, I guess, and just personal branding. You mentioned it with LinkedIn, but are they posting research? Are they releasing things that are related to what you're actually working on in your environment? Do they use the same terminology? Each environment is going to be a little bit different. Like for us, we're largely testing on-prem AD and cloud environments and things of that nature. So there should be supporting evidence of expertise in that area when you talk to them.
Yeah, we don't like if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, do you do hardware hacking?" The answer is no.
Yeah, absolutely not.
But we know who does, and we'll give you their name, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, that's a good one too. Do they invite testers on the call? Do they have full-time employees?
Yeah.
Those are kind of the
I mean, yeah, I guess that's after you're past your initial research stage.
Initial screening, sure.
At the call part, right?
Yeah.
Do they have references, right? Ask for references. I mean, they should have a decent list of people ready to go as a reference so that they can quickly reach out to be like, hey, do you mind if this person contacts you, right? Low cost does not mean good, right? If somebody offers you a $2,000 pen test, I can tell you right now that's going to be garbage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, budget's also part of what you're talking about. The budget part plays a role in terms of how valuable an assessment.
Budget for $2,000 for a pen test. Like, I don't know who's doing that pen test for $2,000.
Yeah, we're going to deny that, right? Yeah.
Yes, budget comes into play. I would say if you're coming in expecting a good pen test for, let's say, when I say pen test, I'm talking, let's say, both internal or let's just individual, external. If somebody says, we'll give you a really good external pen test for like $3,000 or $4,000, I'm, aside from automated scanning, right? I don't know what you're getting. I don't know what else you're getting for that.
And that's the scan pretty much, that's it?
For internal, I mean, small environment, maybe you get away at like 12, 13,000, right? For like a good job, hands-on keyboard, not a ton of automated scans. It's more pedal to the metal, actual human at a keyboard, looking through Active Directory issues, looking through SCCM, looking through ADCS, looking through, all kinds of stuff like that, right? Kerberos issues, everything under the sun, not just running a scan with Nmap and then, trying to pop stuff that they find in the Metasploit. Oh, SSH password off internally. Oh, well, you got port 21 open on a printer, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, awesome. I mean, you think that scans?
I think so. I mean, we mentioned it during the first cast, but offensive security's gotten a lot more difficult. So with how difficult the environment and the space has gotten, you're going to get a very mixed array of professionals that actually know what they're doing.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Like people that 1099 the workout to like, oh, we do pen testing, except you can't find anybody who's actually on their team when you search for it. That means they're probably 1099ing it out to somebody potentially overseas, and I'd be surprised if they're doing all that great a job, to be honest. Because what incentive do they have if they're not even an employee of the company? You know what I mean? Like, anyway. Yeah, I mean, the other thing I think is like, does the vendor you're potentially going to go with for this work seem engaged during calls, during emails? Like, hey, tell us more about your environment. Like, what keeps you up at night, right? Like, what's not just, okay, so you want a pen test? Yeah, I need a pen test. Okay, I'll have an SOW over in 5 minutes. I'll see you later, right? Like, they need to like actually pay attention and be like, hey, what kind, are you hybrid? Are you cloud? Are you, how many web apps do you have? Are those, something that you worry about? Were they home built? Are you paying a third party to do those for you, right? Like, do you have AWS and Entra infrastructure?
That's right.
Right? Entra infrastructure. Are there actual like servers there? Is it just used for like identity management with Microsoft 365? Like, these are the questions they should be asking. Like, how many end users can we use phishing and vishing and whatever else social engineering attacks to try to prove the risk on an external, right? Can we try to phish people or password spray and whatever to try to get access to your cloud environments to prove that risk? That's those are, and sure, not everybody scopes jobs like we do. People have different services and they have different boundaries on what are included in those services, right? So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but there should be, scoping questions, right? And there should be, it shouldn't be just like, hey, I heard you were interested. Here's a scoping questionnaire. There's nothing wrong with sending a scoping questionnaire, but there should also be a conversation, right? Do they describe to you how they do what they do? Like if you were to say, like, what is your general process? They go, well, we're gonna hook up Nessus, and like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like using Nessus on a pen test, but so many people, like, that is their crutch, right? That informs, and I get it, like, to an extent, like that does inform a pen test. It can, at least. But there is so much attack surface being left on the table that is more likely to be abused by an actual bad guy than what comes out of a Nessus scan. I think you think that's fair. I would say that, to be perfectly honest, and the first thing we do when we do an internal pen test is we're just ramming and jamming Active Directory to find issues with it, right? Like, we're not like port scans and services running, like web servers and things is like an afterthought compared to, Active Directory, ADCS, SCM, like all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's part of it is whenever we have this conversation with scoping, I try to offer specific goals or ideas of what potential outcomes would look like, right? If we're doing attack path validation we're starting with a domain user account, well, we're going to do a lot of different things to escalate privileges. We're going to allow the pivot. We're going to do all these different things, target Active Directory. So that's where the low-hanging fruit is going to exist for the most part. And that's obviously where the emphasis of the test is going to start. And if your environment's been hardened, you didn't do it.
Keep losing connection. Sorry.
Oh, did we lost? Are we back? I'm still
here. I think we're good.
Yeah, I was saying, like the web server stuff and everything, you want the tester to do that after you have cycles of a penetration test. The best clients that I see are when you do an initial penetration test, a good one, they have on-prem AD, they kind of hit you with a lot of different common findings, ADCS issues, SCCM, kernel roasting. They found ways to get to domain admin these 5 different ways, and they reported on it. You fix it the next year.
Pre-created computer accounts.
Sure, things like that. LDAP abuse, anything like that. And then when you fix those low-hanging fruit issues, which is not easy by itself, and we could talk about the cyclical problem that we have with annual penetration test as is with remediation. But once you fix those, the best environments, those obstacles, we kind of have to work even harder towards. Like I want to continuously see ESC1 when I run Certify and say, okay, we have domain admin in 2 steps, right? Yeah. I want the challenge of environments of saying, how do you push a tester to actually think outside of the box? That's what you're paying them for, of this expertise to come in and understand your environment, chain different unique techniques together outside of the kind of the continuous low-hanging fruit, which I think will be automated at some point as well when we get there.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get into the AI thing in just a second.
Yeah. But part of the industry problem is that cyclical remediation cycle where, even for us, we all think we do a really good job. I'm sure this is true for our competitors. That annual assessment still is broken to some aspect because you have these 5-6 different issues, you have recommendations, you offer remediation guidance in support of that report, but then a year goes by, you come back, and guess what? It's the same issue, or a fix wasn't fully implemented the way they thought it was, and you get it in the same exact way. Yeah. That's part of our problem, I guess, as an industry, of like, how do we actually solve that? Where are we providing value, or are we just kind of doing a, look how cool we are, we got domain admin kind of thing, but actually fixing the right things?
Yeah, ideally there is less red and orange hued colors in a report year over year. But you can't always, some of this stuff is hard to fix, right? Especially when you've got, one person, one or two people who are supposed to remediate all this stuff on a relatively small client or even medium-sized client. I mean, so many clients of ours, like 1 or 2 people that are meant to fix all this stuff, and as fast as the audit committee wants them to, right? And it's just oftentimes like not realistic, right? Which is why they sometimes get upset when we find this stuff, because they know what's going to happen to them, right? And the backlog they already have in all the other projects. So, I mean, you go down the rabbit hole of root cause for why these things are on their network, of like, especially the second year. And it's like, well, the root cause might be the fact that, Steve Areno in IT has no help, right? And how is he supposed to fix all this stuff by himself? He needs funding, or he needs this, or he needs that, or he needs a person or a tool or something. And he just, like, you only go so far down the hole when you're doing a pen test as far as like what the actual issue is. But I'm willing to bet that's behind a lot of why you end up with repeat findings. So anyway, so AI pen testing. I feel like every day I see a new tool by some either bot account or, professional troll who's like, oh my God, human pen testing is over because somebody made this AI hacking tool that like beat, game of Active Directory in 10 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. Just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of hype right now with there's Shannon. There's a couple people like releasing, oh my God, these multi-agent system was released and it could run Nmap and Hydra, and it's a red team agent platform, and it's no guardrails.
If that was actually a red team.
Yeah. So there's that going on, but I do think that LLMs are going to get really good to be able to automate the very low-hanging fruit, very easy things that in the game of Active Directory, for example, which a lot of LLMs like Claude have already been trained on, can probably do. So if it's like ADCS and running certified in a certain way, getting a certificate and then running that, I think that is going to happen in an industry where the low-hanging fruit stuff of like running responder, getting hashes and doing relays and things, that at some point probably can be easily automated. Or at the very least will provide efficiencies for the testers not to only just look at that and say like, this is very easy to kind of automate for us in the background and have different perspectives of we're investigating like deeper things, which I don't think the LLMs are going to be that good at, frankly. Like I know there's competitors that do automated pen testing already out there. They're kind of doing that in the background already with running that exec as a wrapper or something in the background. So I think over time, yes, there'll be the low-hanging fruit stuff of pen testing is going to evolve, and it's going to get even harder for us. But that's kind of what we've signed up for. I mean, it's no secret that 5 or 6 years ago, it's going to get even harder when we progress even faster now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like it'll come up where people will ask you, clients will ask you like, hey, have you heard about this automated pen testing platform that uses AI?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes. And I have yet to be given too many reports that come out of a tool like that to look at from a client. Like that was where an actual production environment was tested with that tool, right? And what it came back with. I have seen 1 or 2 of them, and they're very disjointed findings. It isn't clear necessarily what the risk is like per finding. Like you have to do your own work being like, but did it put it together or not? Like, did it figure out this user was like AS rep roastable, right? And then potentially crack their password, move laterally, go do some certify thing, whatever the case may be, right? Again, very small data set that I've seen, but like, they'll get there. I don't think they're there yet, right? Of like being able to do all of that stuff where you would think a human is required to do. I mean, have you seen anything more impressive that I'm missing?
I haven't seen too much. Obviously, I haven't seen like reports in that nature. My understanding is those trivial attack paths, I think it's a supplement and probably more valuable than just running a Nessus scan. But then you're pretty much replacing a scanner or adding another scanner to your environment. So there's definitely things that will probably help, and the low hanging fruit of like, hey,
Well,
we don't have
it wouldn't surprise me if, and I think it'd probably take forever. But it wouldn't surprise me if like once those things get really good at doing the lower hanging fruit type stuff, that they do start to replace vulnerability scanners
yeah,
as the
definitely.
gold standard.
But then
Right.
guess what's going to happen, in my opinion? You're going to replace the Nessus scanning shops with all these like AI pen testing shops that just run that essentially. and
Which
do
is
the low-hanging
basically
fruit.
pretty easy for them. They just gotta like
Yeah.
until their Nessus
With their tokens and
their
contacts
Nessus
and then let it
licenses,
rip.
and then
Yeah.
buy this. Be like, hey, we do pen testing, automated pen testing now.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper.
But that's at least a good thing. That shows some sort of progress in some ways, in lieu of
It's a
the
dark world where that's progress.
right.
But I guess
Fair enough.
I guess it's progress.
Yeah,
Did we cover what we want to cover here? Did we miss
I
anything?
think so.
I think half of this ended up being a rant, and the other half ended up being actual knowledge sharing for what we've seen out there. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I guess that's it. We don't have to go on an hour about a topic that might be boring for people. Suffice it to say, there's a lot of slop being sold out there. Still, just keep your ear to the rail, I guess, and keeping an eye on these companies that are trying to sell you a bag of goods that aren't necessarily good. Watch out for super low prices. Watch out for people not wanting to share information about how they do their thing, or other people that can vouch for them doing their thing. Right? If you Google search and you see the first few lines are, "Hey, $200 for a penetration test," which I've seen. Don't click on that link. It's not real life. But yeah, or if you have questions, come to us. Well, you can go with us. You can not go with us, but at least to leave a little bit of better understanding. So with that, wrap it up. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and thank you for watching. See you, everybody.